Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours. Blessed to be here today with my mentor, my friend, Blaine Bartlett, BlaineBartlett.com. How are you, Blaine?
I could not be better. I was just telling Raluca, it's just absolutely beautiful up here on the island today. And I've been, kind of hitting on all cylinders here in the last couple of days. Did some great podcasts, did a webinar yesterday, and it was rousing success. We got all kinds of stuff going on.
Well, that's great to hear. I will tell you, I think there was a geographic swap between Seattle and Southern California because it looks like Seattle here. We are cold and wet, and it's almost June, so I don't know what's going on, but we're happy to have it. I'm happy that you got our weather. At least it's with someone that I love. But we're here to talk about winning, Blaine, and we brought on an expert at winning. Lee Benson's in the house, CEO and founder of Execute to Win, ETW.com. That's not an easy domain to get. Welcome to Office Hours, Lee.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me, David.
You know, I've been wanting to ask you this question about something I think is interesting when we talk about winning. Our perspective of winning changes through the lessons that we learn. So I'd love to understand your philosophy of winning. What does it mean to win?
Well, in the context of a for-profit or nonprofit organization, it's continually increasing the value of those organizations over time. It could be profitability or cash flow, or it could be impact. And there's a whole lot that goes into that. It's not just the number and profit. It's the culture. It's how people feel. It's the impact on the communities that you engage with. But I would say in the context of organizational winning, which is, I think, what this is about, it's continually, consistently increasing the value of the organizations over time and accelerating it when you do the right work.
Yeah, it's very consistent with an old quote that Earl Nightingale offered up one time when he was asked, how do you define success? And he said, it's the worthy pursuit or the pursuit of a worthy ideal, the continual pursuit of a worthy ideal. And the idea of, a large part of what you do at Execute to Win is foster, and I'm going to use the word foster here, not because it's distinct from create, but foster the opportunity for organizations to come into alignment around a worthy ideal. Is that a good way of kind of capturing that?
Yeah, in a way. And Earl Nightingale, incredible, The Strangest Secret, best recording ever.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I bet I've given.
We're aging ourselves, guys. Let's be careful.
That away. It's about continually creating value. If you were to ask the question of it to an individual, what's your definition of success, or what does winning look like? And for me, it's ever-growing personal fulfillment by creating win-win value in the world. Like, I feel the best, and I think most people feel the absolute best when they're doing something in a win-win way, and then they continually increase the level of what's going on there. That's where self-esteem comes from, personal fulfillment grows. So if I had a most important number for myself as an individual, it would be the internal fulfillment quotient, and however you want to measure that. And I think that could be slightly different for everyone.
And beyond that, we have to talk about individual communities. And a lot of what you do is winning within the context of communities, and yet the size, scope, scale of the target or size of the targetable market or community has expanded exponentially. How has winning within the context of community impacted what you do as well?
Yeah, it drives everything that I do. So our whole purpose is strengthening communities by improving workplace culture. And what I realized as I was building one of my aerospace companies from 3 employees to over 500, creating the rules of engagement, the system everybody operated in, caused them to get amazing results, create unbelievable value. And then over time, we never had to, we never had a leader quit on their own. We had to move a few to the side as we outgrew them, never one. And I don't know any company that can really say that. And then I noticed every weekend there's 15 or 20 events everybody's invited to that the employees are just spontaneously putting on. And I had over time dozens of spouses tell me unsolicited, my husband or wife is a better person to live with after less than a year of working at your company. What are you guys doing down there?
Right.
Oh my gosh. I mean, what the value creation, the self-esteem that we created in this culture, this way of doing things permeated out into the families, and it goes out into the communities that we engage with. And very selfishly, in a win-win way, I want to live in a world that's amazing. So the more people that do this, the more organizations that do it, it creates a better world for all of us instead of what may be a dystopian future that we're heading towards. So I'm going to try to stop that.
It's funny, Blaine, I got to just tell you, because Blaine's one of the world's best coaches in the world. And I send my people to him. I have him coach me. And one of the, I think, proofs that he's one of the best is he has my wife, and I know one of the other employees of mine, their wives are always calling him saying, I don't know what you're doing, but you got to keep on coaching him because he's so much easier to live with. I also want to point out one more thing, because I always love to add a little bit of color. I make this more a sports media company as we have office hours for business, but I have a young lady that commented in there, and her name's Serafina. She's 19 years old, and I poached her from San Diego State Entrepreneur Program because as I'm walking to a speech, she tells me, I listen to Bob Proctor every day. And she's only 19 years old, and I immediately said to her, you're hired. She goes, well, you don't even know what I do. I go, I do not care, but if any 19-year-old takes their time to listen to Bob Proctor. So then she comments in here, this is classic. She's 19, and she says, yes, love Earl Nightingale. Just listen to him say that on his tape, The Strangest Secret. And I'm thinking, what 19-year-old at San Diego State University is listening? And she's a gorgeous, wonderful girl with so much athletic. And I'm thinking, who has the time? Let alone, why are you choosing this instead of TikTok? But good for you, Serafina. Keep leading the way. There's a lot of riches in those niches, and keep reading what inspires you. And I had to point that out because I'm sure it made both of your day as well as mine that there's some 19 years old out there still keeping our mentors alive.
Love it.
Yeah. And Serafina, I know you're listening here. My granddaughter is coming to San Diego State next year. She's just decided on there. So I want to get the two of you introduced. She is brilliant, and you're going to love her, and she's going to love you. So we'll make that happen. Okay.
Thank you. Now, all right, Blaine, you're up now. BlaineBartlett.com. It's your turn.
This book over my shoulder, Dave and I co-authored Compassionate Capitalism. And I had Gary Ridge, who was the CEO at the WD-40 for a number of years. He just recently retired. The idea of compassionate capitalism, taking care of people, and this is, this is what you're doing. You take care of people, and it's good business. I mean, it's just good business. Can you talk about some of the organizations that you've actually influenced and touched, with, let's see here, not just Execute to Win, but in the work that you've done? I know you partnered with Jack Welch. I'm assuming that Larry Bossidy kind of came into the conversation at some point in time because execution was his whole thing. What have you seen that could be identified in some way, shape, or form as compassionate capitalism, where people are paying attention to connection and honoring connection? Now, that's kind of a big scope question.
It's a big question, and I always found it fascinating that more companies don't do this kind of stuff. And so the experience for every internal team member, wildly important. We want them to learn how to create value, build on that, have elevated self-esteem, have a voice, work for leaders that really care about them. And in one of my companies, I even put in a 10,000 square foot gym with full-time functional movement trainers Monday through Saturday, gave the employees extra money for training 2 days a week if they did that, and if they brought their family members, even more. And it was an expensive program. We had, out of 500 plus people, we had over 360 that were taking advantage of it. But because we did that and so many other things, the net effect was millions of dollars more in profit, which we shared a big percentage of that with all the employees. So it's a whole package. When you're creating value, it's not, like I said earlier, it's not the number. It's creating value for every single stakeholder, your team members, your customers, the communities, all of it going forward. So I agree with you and what you're talking about. And by the way, Ram Charan is a friend of mine. We're actually talking about co-authoring a book right now. And I get all of that. And I don't know why more don't. They just see it as an expense. It's almost like they're thinking cost control most of the time and not investment in the best net return 1 to 3 years down the road. But it's the whole thing. It's the whole package. Yeah.
And Leah, I'll tell you, if you're thinking about co-authoring a book, there's no one better to co-author a book with than Blaine Bartlett, because he's an absolute genius and he does all the work and gives you all the credit. So I can't think of a better person to co-author a book with, and just want to publicly thank Blaine for doing all the work and giving me all the credit. So you're amazing, Blaine. To the side again. But, you know, looking at the people that you do impact, it's an interesting balance to help people at every level and every stage. And all of us have been blessed to reach the stage of impacting some of the world's greatest leaders, capital leaders, as well as thought leaders. But yet it seems to me that you still have a connection to and a desire to plant seeds, as Dennis Waitley stated, under trees that you never sit under, that you're still heavily involved in really looking at all members of the community, and especially those up and coming, not just the biggest names in business. What are some of the things that you do to balance the impact that you're having from some of the biggest names in business and thought leadership to just the people like Serafina that need some seeds and need some help as well?
Yeah, my philosophy is develop appropriately everybody all the time that you come in contact with. And I run CEO groups, mastermind groups. We limit it to 8. We call it Execute. And it's for high growth CEOs. The results are fantastic. It really solves for a lot of the challenges that most of the popular groups have out there. And now I'm starting the first group in July of junior CEOs. These are kids coming out of high school that already have traction. And my goal is, with hundreds of members in these different groups at the senior level, I want every one of them within a couple of years running their own group of kids coming out of high school that already have traction. So that's my deal. Develop everybody appropriately all the time, and that'll make a dent in the world. And you develop the right person, they will change the world. So you never know what seed's going to grow into this giant sequoia redwood world. Yeah.
I love that image. Yeah.
Lee, you work with hundreds of leadership teams, companies ranging from 4 employees to over 4,000. So you walk the walk and talk the talk. And it takes entrepreneurs and leaders like yourself in order to provide opportunity for those people who I think are changing and impacting the world the most. If anyone wants to learn about how to execute to win, Lee Benson is your guy, CEO and founder of Execute to Win, etw.com. Next time, how that pain, but more importantly, come back and join us. I'm sure you have more pearls of wisdom to share with our community, and we certainly appreciate you taking the time to stop by.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great interview. Have you back. All right. We're rocking and rolling, Blaine. Here on Office Hours, I got the great Blaine Bartlett with me. We're going to bring our next guest on. Jovana is waiting in the wing. Jovana Vojinovic, Senior Director of Nomad Capitalist. So we're right back on track of the Compassionate Capitalist, nomadcapitalist.com, the world's leading offshore consulting firm, and having a great impact as well. Welcome, Jovana.
Thank you. Great being with you.
You know, the business of offshore has changed dramatically. I was one of the first. I had an outsourced development team in Calcutta, India, of all places, in the 90s. And everyone thought I was insane to leverage a great intelligence community out there that wasn't available back then in the United States. And I was tired of poaching juniors out of Cal Poly SLO to pay them far too much to quit school and come engineer for me. And the guilt still resonates as I had to go back to work from making $250,000 to $30,000 when the bubble burst in the 90s as well. But I was hoping you could give us a little historical analysis of offshore development, because it's changed a lot. The locations, the quality, the communication have all changed throughout the years over the last 25 or 30 years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I said, it did change a lot over, especially at least a couple of years. I think in most of the countries, everything offshore has a very negative connotation, and people do perceive that as something very negative, potentially something very illegal. But that's definitely nowadays not a case. I think everyone had those inherently, at that moment, right, perception of going offshore, whether for banking or some other things where you can put your money in a sack and go to Cayman Islands, open a bank account. No one would know. You're good to go. And I grew up with a lot of Hollywood movies that were portraying that picture. So, it's very inherently kind of a bad thing. You don't do it, and so on. But that's no longer a case. And nowadays we see more and more people realizing that that's not illegal. That doesn't going offshore doesn't mean a tax evasion. You can really, in most of the cases, just get benefits. So whether that is from the asset diversification, fund diversification, different companies and benefit from taxes in different areas of the world, or as you did, sourcing people in different countries who might not just be, cheaper for what you're looking for, but in many cases way better for what you need. But also something that we do very often, and that is becoming a very big trend nowadays, and I would say especially after pandemic, are second passports, or more and more people are looking to either relocate or just have like a second or third passport kind of as a plan B. So as I said, this is no like perception of going offshore really changed over the last couple of years, specifically. But since 2008, 7 or 8, hiding money in Cayman were no longer possible. There is a lot of rules imposed. FATCA for US, or CRS for everyone else. So banks are communicating, governments are communicating who is a tax resident there, and banks want to see the proof. So it really is becoming way more regulated. Obviously, we're facing now that global minimum taxes that everyone is talking about trying to implement, and we see a lot of developments in Europe happening over that. So with that, it will be also increasingly harder to benefit from this kind of, let's say, offshore companies and legal ways to reduce your taxes.
Yeah. So just a quick clarification question, and then I got a question following that.
2 questions for the price of 1.
For the price of 1 here. Is most of your clientele U.S. based or North America based? Canada, U.S.
Yeah,
no,
60% of our clients are U.S.
Yeah.
And then Canada, Australia, UK, so very westernized countries, let's say, who are looking for either, as I said, a place to live and some other locations, or maybe something that we called Plan B, like a backup option if things go sour, that they have an ability to move around.
Good. So the second part of that question is, it just kind of gave me a sense of who the demographic is that you're targeting here, and working with. What changes when you start working with somebody out of the North America Western economic domain? What changes for you as a consulting agent to help these entrepreneurs actually achieve what it is that you're positioning for them in terms of freedom, in terms of global access, that sort of thing? Is there anything fundamental that changes in the way that you work with other nationals other than these Western North American economic entrepreneurs?
Yeah, well, I mean, our approach towards them is always the same. It doesn't matter kind of in which country they are leaving or they are coming from, where they are going. So we're always trying to be very coherent with that one. But it is very, very interesting from my perspective to look how perception of our clients change when they are moving from one to another country, and either or even in some cases just getting access to more options, as I said, staying in their home country, but just getting either offshore companies or bank accounts, and how they're getting used to use those things, or bottom line, living in some other place. I think our perception does not change, but there does.
Yep. Okay.
And where are the best places now? So as people look at Plan B or tax benefit, I would assume if there's a Plan B, it's because of the ease of getting a second passport or a residency comparatively to tax benefit. Those would be two different critical life or business issues that present themselves. Where are the best locations for the ease, and where's the best locations today for tax benefit?
Yeah, well, to answer kind of correctly to that question, we always go to what your goals are. So for someone who maybe is coming from the US, does want to live the main goal is to reduce taxes in any way, shape or form. Obviously, we're now looking into tax-free places. That might be UAE, that might be Monaco, that might be some other locations that might have additional taxes and that maybe match lifestyle. I don't know. Portugal is very interesting. A lot of US expats are in Portugal. So South America is now becoming really a hub for folks from US. Mexico was during COVID. So obviously, like just looking at what the goal is, if someone might come and say, yeah, my ultimate goal is access to better healthcare. So that's something that I'm very concerned about. In the future, I want to have access to best healthcare possible. So we will, in those cases, look into what are the preconditions in case what we need to have in that country. And obviously, people do like to bring weather, like they want to be in a nice weather, so you don't send them in Sweden or Finland. So in some nice places. And obviously, they might come and say, yeah, I want nice healthcare and a good education for my kids or grandkids, and reduce taxes, which might be completely different country. So again, based on that, it is where we are making our recommendations. So if we're speaking about second passports that you brought, kind of the easiest way, and in most of the cases, the fastest way to obtain couple are obtaining citizenships from a couple Caribbean countries that do provide basically, apologies, for a donation or real estate purchase to get a passport. So, give or take, it is 6 to 8 months process, and you'll have a very solid second passport in your hand. Some other countries do not have that option, but you can get it a couple years down the road. So if you live in Portugal for 6 years, you can get, or you don't necessarily have to live full time, but spend some time there, you can get it down the road. So Portugal is 6, let's say. A lot of people nowadays like Argentina or Paraguay. That is becoming a big hub for a lot of actual digital nomads. So that is really 3 to 5 years citizenship, so a bit more faster. And something that is really my personally favorite, and that a lot of US citizens do qualify for, unfortunately not many people know, is citizenship through ancestry. So, 75% of U.S. population have up to third generation of a descent. So, basically, pretty much a lot of them do qualify for a second passport, yet mostly Europe or South America that allow multiple generations. So, you put some time in that. Obviously, there is a whole shebang with obtaining the documents and tracing in European churches, some birth certificates and things like that. But really, in a year to year and a half, you get a really good citizenship in hands without knowing the language, without stepping a foot if you do not want to. Obviously, if you do, you can still live there. Your kids can benefit from education system and so on, but you don't have to. You can have it in case things go sour, right? So there are different ways. As I said, my personally favorite is CBD because citizenship by descent, because so many people do qualify and not many people know. So what I like to say is that, this going offshore world is really no longer and just an opportunity for very high earners or people with billions of dollars. So nowadays everyone can get the benefits of that lifestyle.
That's great.
Amazing.
That's fascinating. Yeah, that really is. I'll see you in Trinidad, David.
All right, we got it, my friend. Well, my lineage is Ukraine, so I'm not going to go ahead and get citizenship there right now, but I'll think about it later on when this whole thing blows over. Jovana, there's so many great opportunities that exist by utilizing the Nomad capitalist approach, and we all need mentors that can give us directions on how to get there. And if you're interested in offshore engagement, whether it's for healthcare, globalization of citizenship, liberties, freedoms, whatever it may be, and of course, tax benefit and investment, Nomad capitalists have helped over 2,000 high net worth individuals go offshore, and even now, those that may not even be high net wealth through other ways of getting citizenship. Jovana, thanks so much again for everything that you do, giving options, opportunities, touches of favor to people around the world. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's awesome. All right. We're rocking and rolling here today. It's always nice to see everybody in the house. It's time to max out. We got our next friend here. Max Vollmer is here, COO of Remeda Management, CEO of Vollmer Real Estate Investments. Welcome to Office Hours.
Welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I was excited, Max, to have you. I have a close space in my heart for athletes that take what they've learned on the field and apply them off the field. And I was blessed to be with two great entrepreneurs who are still top of their game, Austin Eckler and Michael Chandler. And I'm blessed to coach both of those young athletes in the entrepreneurial side of things. And I find it such a joy when you have someone who has characteristics from playing or being a competitive athlete, and they're so much easier to coach. Number one, because they're used to coaching. And I get frustrated all the time because I get so many world-class athletes that get out into the real business world, and I'll say, hey, you really should get a business coach. Let me introduce you to Blaine Bartlett. And they're like, what do I need a coach for? And I was like, dude, you've had a coach since you were 5. And imagine if you didn't have a coach, a golf coach or a swing coach or a tennis coach. I do a lot with Rick Macy. You could ask Serena and Venus Williams. Imagine if you didn't have Rick Macy, right? And now you're going to go step into a new court, the court of business, real estate, finance, insurance, whatever it may be. You don't think you need a coach. Why do you think it is, Max, that so many athletes like yourself, or I should say unlike yourself, don't see the benefit of a coach when they get into business?
I think it's just the stereotype that's out there, right? In sports, there's no question asked, right? We see most of the most successful people. Nobody just is going to be a world-class athlete without a coach, right? There's always a massive team of nutritionists, physiotherapists, and coaches out there. In business, I think a lot of the time, some of these most successful stories don't really mention their mentorships, but everyone is trying to be in the show light, just trying to be the star. But ultimately, when you go back into their actual stories, you read some of their bios and actually understand how they got successful, right? Nobody just gets there overnight. There's always mentors, partnerships, coaches, anything along the way to help you. And I think it's almost selfish believing these days that you will get to the top in your industry, to your niche, without mentorship, right? Yes, there's ways you can get there, but I think it's just in our time frame right now, with everything being digital, you just need to take advantage of the knowledge that's out there and compromise the time that it takes you to succeed, and learn from other people's failures so you don't have to do the same failures again, and you just reapply that knowledge and the expertise from somebody else to help you get to where you want to be quicker. It's the way how we got successful quickly. It's just by surrounding us with the right people. I always tell everyone our net worth is our network, right? The people that we know. I've seen you on stage with Jeff Hoffman. He's a good friend of ours, right? These are the people that you have to surround yourself. Amazing minds. Every time I talk to them, I feel just I've learned so much, right? Because there's so much wisdom, and it's just amazing, like having these people in your pipeline that you can call and be like, hey, I'm doing this. What do you think? Do you think I should approach it, or should I do something different? Just that mentorship and coaching is just super, super valuable. And I think more and more people realize that these days too, that they get there quicker by just having, it's an investment. You're investing in coaching. It's not an expense. It's an investment in your education, and that will always have a 10x return, because the investment in yourself is the most important investment you can do these days.
So, and I could not agree with you more. I don't have anything to add to that. I do have a question here, though, and it has to do with the niche that I find that you are actually occupying in your real estate side of your life here. Raw land. You specialize in raw land, bare land. Mm-hmm. How did you get there? Because people look at, I got a vacant lot next to me that I just bought, but it's sat vacant for, I've been here for 24 years. It sat vacant for 24 years, and I curated it and took care of it. But why raw land? What's the value that you saw there that others weren't seeing, such that that's the niche that you decided to play in?
That's a good question. So we focus on many things. We have started with raw land because when we started, there was just a shortage of housing, and people were moving out of the bigger cities into these suburban areas. So what we did, we followed the immigration movements. We saw, people going into the suburban areas, and ultimately there was not much housing available, but there was still land available. So people went to purchase land. We flipped land to developers. Our goal back then was always going into the ground up construction, because I really enjoyed that piece of real estate. I think it has a huge legacy component to it, and I was really inspired on it. So I knew if I understand the game on how to find land, how to understand the zoning, how to understand the future land use, how to understand the rezoning of cities while they're growing. Cities are also basically big businesses, right? They make the decisions on how they're adjusting the zoning processes. So we've used all that knowledge, along the way. Obviously did fix and flips, focus on that, rental acquisition and apartment syndications, to now really get specialized again into what we initially planned, and that's grown up construction. We're building a lot of townhomes here in St. Pete and Sarasota. We're building small, medium-sized apartments. But again, because we are so heavily invested in studying the cities, 5 and 10-year growth plans, and seeing where can we buy real estate right now, knowing that they're going to change the zoning in next year, and then you're going to tear down the building and build 6 townhomes, or build a multifamily, right? So it kind of all played in there, and I really enjoy new construction of townhomes and multifamily, because I always tell myself, in 10 years or 15 years, my kids, I can drive by and say, hey, we built this. But a fix and flip in 10 years might not look anywhere close how you left it, but a new construction of an apartment building is still going to look pretty decent by the time you drive by. And it's just, for me, it's a legacy. You're helping increase, build the city, helping pretty much build and improve the city. So you have a huge impact to it. And that's what I really love. And it's how we started with land, because we knew if you understand that game, you can reapply it into a more specific niche later on.
Good.
And obviously, mentoring and coaching has played an important role in that, as well as being an athlete and having a desire that you must be what you can be, a spirit of excellence. But a lot of people look over credibility, and there's many characteristics that attribute, especially in real estate or insurance or other areas where the stigma of the lack of credibility stands out. And we know as lawyers or insurance or financial fiduciaries, there's always bad eggs and bad case studies that accelerate or amplify the negativity that exists in any industry. But your reputation is one based off of that spirit of excellence, but also about integrity and credibility. What are some of the things that you advise or coach or mentor young real estate professionals that, as I always say, really good people that get desperate, do bad things? How do you counteract in a down market, in a challenging competitive industry, to maintain your integrity and credibility throughout the process of building your career like you have with hundreds of doors to keep that credibility and maintain your integrity?
Yeah, what I always tell people is the best deals are the ones you actually don't do, right? Because right now we're seeing a lot of, you can always look at a deal like 2-3 times in different perspectives and change things to make it look good, or have some future assumptions. What if this happens? Well, then the deal makes a lot of sense. And especially right now where the market in many areas, suburban markets within the United States, is not necessarily as attractive. Interest rates are high, cash flow is really slim. A lot of the equity is not really there as it has been in the last couple of years. The best deals are the ones you don't do. Being patient for another 3-4 months, and then really looking at deals over and over and over again until you find the one that makes the most sense. That's where I see myself sometimes when I have a deal and but what if it would just work? It's so close, and then just not doing it and understanding that this is the best decision you do. Because real estate, in my opinion, is something, if you understand how to look at real estate the right way, you're buying right, you've been in a good location, you understand equity and cash flow, and you look at the numbers the right way, it's not a risky investment. There's always tax benefits, you have appreciation, depreciating, you have cash flow. If it's a cash flowing asset in a great location, you will always be the winner. So just wait for these kind of transactions and don't try to bend things to a what if analysis to what if the market goes up by 50,000 in 1 year? That would be great, but what if not? If you have, the money has been made when you buy, not when you sell. And this is what a lot of people forget. They're like, I buy and I make money when I sell, but it's vice versa. You either buy it right. And that's what we always do, because you lose your integrity, right, with equity partners. Real estate is a team sport. In most circumstances, you're not going to just do the first deal you sell. You might have ask friends and family members to lend you some money for a down payment, or you need a bridge loan, right? If the first deal you do goes sideways and you lose $50,000, well, the next one is not going to be that easy, right? So just being patient and do good deals that will keep you in the game and will allow you to scale and grow and keep staying in the game, right?
In my experience, counseling somebody to be patient is one of the more difficult things that I have to kind of contend with when I'm coaching executives, because they're schooled in taking action. Let's move now. Let's move now.
Right.
In the work that you do with, I'll just talk about your staff when you're onboarding people, that sort of thing. How do you actually teach them to be patient? And I'm asking out of curiosity here because I'm looking for the silver bullet. How do you teach them to be patient?
Yeah, it's easier taught than done. In fact, that's probably my biggest weakness, being patient. And it helps me teach people to realize sometimes the same things, but it's not an easy thing to teach. Obviously, the way we do it is on the consultation side with real estate. Once people are in our program, I always tell them, I got to give you the approval on these deals, the first ones, until you have the experience. I always have, a third-party opinion on some of these decisions that you're making. And I just have learned over the time to talking to people like Jeff Hoffman, people that have clearly accomplished amazing things, on learning the skill of patience and learning, just understanding that you seek advice, because obviously we are biased, right? When we look at a deal, we're excited. We just want to get it done. We see the outcome, but sometimes having a neutral person. So what I always preach people is, if you have something, talk to somebody who's not related to it, who's not invested in a deal, and just see what they would say, right? Because then you get a totally different opinion, and just listen, be unbiased, listen to them, what they have to say, and take it into consideration. And if some third party tells you that this sounds really good, that feedback is ultimately what you need. If you can always convince yourself, but can you convince your wife now that this is a good decision, right? Or like your friends and family members that are going to be already skeptical with your new adventures you're trying to do? Well, if that's the case, that might look really good, right? And that might help you with patience. But hearing from other people that doesn't really sound so good, maybe do some more research. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to be the third party, be neutral, looking at those kind of transactions, looking at these decisions that we made, and analyzing it. And that's what I do myself. And I have a great idea. I always seek advice every single time. Like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. These are the numbers, but here are also some of the downsides. What do you think? What is your neutral opinion on that? And it helps you stay in the game, not making these uneducated decisions or being too excited about a deal that looks good on paper, but is a lot of the what if analysis that factors it in.
Absolutely. Push yourself to the max. Contact Max Vollmer, who will help you find your best, teach you how, mentor you, and bring out the best in you. You can reach him at vollmercoaching.com and all the websites below. Max, thank you so much for all the great lessons. The comments are terrific over there. Everybody has seemed to learn a lot. Please come back and join us. And say hi to Jeff Hoffman for me. I was just with him in Indy.
Yeah, I saw it. I will. Thank you, sir. Have a wonderful day.
You got it.
Thanks, man.
One of my mentors as well, Jeff Hoffman, founder of Priceline, spoken all over the world, Riyadh, and he runs the Global Entrepreneurship Summit and a great leader of entrepreneurs and a great entrepreneur himself. All right, last but not least, Blaine, the Double B is here. He is our cleanup hitter today, the co-founder of Evo Hemp, these incredible protein bars grown here, the heart of hemp and hemp protein. U.S. grown hemp is a big industry. He's a Forbes 30 under 30 in the food and drink category. Welcome, Ari Sherman.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, I was excited to have you because we were talking about integrity. And in the protein space, talk about a mismatch of mess. When protein bars, I worked early on with Dr. Connolly and the original Met-Rex before it was sold to GNC, and they dissipated the ingredients and all the other things that happen in those type of industries. But protein has always been an area, especially in athletics, to look at because it's so easy to give the facade of health with protein. And I used to use what I called the Snicker bar litmus test. I would take the back of a protein bar, very popular ones, by the way, and I'd match it to a Snickers bar, and I'd explain how the Snicker bar was far more valuable in nutritional value than most protein bars. And there's certain ingredients now that have exponential nutritional characteristics that are truly helpful, especially in with protein. What are some of the things that you get by utilizing hemp within the context of your extraordinary protein bar?
Yeah, absolutely. Hemp is a super unique protein source. It's actually one of the most bioavailable, if not the most bioavailable plant-based sources of protein. So it's a complete protein, so you get all the essential amino acids in there. But what you're also getting is a perfect balance of omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids. So it's really hemp itself is the most nutritionally complete food source. Your body could literally survive off of eating hemp seeds and drinking water because it provides all these essential nutrients in there. And what's really unique about the protein is it's the most abundant source of what's called globulin edestin protein. About 65% of it is this globulin edestin protein. Globulin proteins are what's found in the bloodstream. So edestins are our plant-based globulin proteins. So they're really easy for the body to digest and absorb. Hemp is, it has all these enzymes still in it because it's not chemically processed. It's just cold pressed. We essentially just take the whole hemp seeds and we crack that outer shell. We press out the oil, and from there we just mill what's left over into the protein powder. So it's all raw protein, so it keeps all those enzymes in there. Super bioavailable, easy for the body to break down and utilize those protein. It has about 98% bioavailability.
Wow, 98%.
98%.
That's now when you source the hemp, are you sourcing just the seeds, or are you sourcing the hemp plant itself at harvest?
Yeah,
And
we're no, definitely. We're doing the seeds themselves, but we
yeah,
do help the farmers find other sources for the plant. So we do help them, find buyers for the fiber and so on. Yeah, we were actually the first company to be able to offer a U.S. grown source of hemp food ingredients. We essentially built the very first U.S. supply chain of hemp food ingredients. Back when we started the company, actually, we had to import our seeds from Canada because it was illegal to grow hemp here in the United States at the time. So we worked, with our, local Congress and Senate, and went up to Washington, D.C., and, essentially lobbied the federal government and sampled the bars with them, and, tried to educate them on the difference of the hemp plants and the other cannabis plants that are out there. And, us and a large group of people were successful in 2014 getting a farm bill passed, allowing the states here to start growing hemp. So we essentially went back to our home state in Colorado and created that very first supply chain, found some farmers, put together our own processing center, and started deshelling those hemp seeds and milling them into those protein powders.
I love
That's amazing.
entrepreneurs. I just love entrepreneurs. I really do.
Yeah,
It's just
no, I mean, talk about a better product, but he glossed over something. It's so funny that you said, I love entrepreneurs, because, my favorite statement is entrepreneurs are going to save the world.
yeah,
They'll fill up the hole in our environment. They'll convert plastic into food or energy or something. And we're not going to get it by just recycling. Recycling will give us the time to let people like Ari figure out the hard stuff. But to that end, entrepreneurs are incredible, because not only facilitating this great business, this great nutritional product with high efficiency in a necessary, as far as food insecurity goes, but he's utilizing the cooperative methodology in the farming to empower communities, to fill gaps, to let and empower underprivileged and at-risk communities, provide income and employment and fulfillment and passion and profitability, as well as purpose. What are some of the things you're doing with the co-ops in order to facilitate a greater good for the community?
Yeah, so when we first started the company, it was one of the first things that actually got us really excited about just the hemp plant in general. I mean, not only is it good for you, it's good for the planet. It uses, a fraction of the amount of water that corn, wheat, and soy does. It doesn't need any of the heavy chemical pesticides or fertilizers to grow, but also it's a really high value added crop for farmers. So when we were in, like I mentioned before, we were importing our seeds from Canada at the time when we very first started, and the Canadian farmers were earning 4 times the amount of income per acre, literally 4 times the amount of income per acre growing hemp seeds than our farmers here in the States growing those traditional crops like corn, wheat, and soy. So we thought, what an incredible opportunity, not only for ourselves as entrepreneurs and as, health conscious consumers, but what a great opportunity to kind of help revitalize, rural America and, provide a high value crops to farmers that are traditionally getting a lot of their stuff subsidized. Here's a crop where they can earn a significant amount of income. It's not destroying the soil. It's a what's called a tap root, so it's actually replenishing the topsoil. It's a great rotation crop. So right now we work exclusively with a co-op called the 40 Acre Co-op. It's a group of Black and Indigenous farmers across about 7 different states. Really incredible group. It was the very first nationwide Black and Indigenous farmer co-op. About 34 members right now in the group that help grow the hemp with us. Just an incredible opportunity to kind of help give back to, not only rural America, but, farmers that haven't been given the same opportunities, through USDA programs and USDA grants. It's essentially how the co-op initially got started. Was a husband and wife team, Angela Dawson and her husband Harold Robinson, tried to get a lot of these traditional, loans and grants from the USDA. And they were essentially denied a lot of these loans. And it's what a lot of Black and Indigenous farmers kind of run into those issues. And so they kind of, pooled their resources together and created this really great nationwide co-op that we get to support today.
You know, what I love about that story, Ari, is for me, the purpose of business is to create the possibility of thriving on the planet. That's the purpose of business. And it goes beyond the product or service that I'm selling, because there's a ripple that comes out. And that story, I want to have you on the soul of business and have you just kind of go through this conversation, because it is exactly what compassionate capitalism can be. It is exactly what the purpose of business is all about. Now, you're making money, what you need to do is stay in business, but they are too. Everybody, it's all floating out there. When you started this, sourcing seeds out of Canada, was there any seed of an idea about what was possible that you are now actually in the midst of? Was any of that kind of glimmering on the horizon for you?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely saw the potential. The hemp industry in Europe and in Asia and in Canada was, pretty far along. But I don't think we really realized the scope of how quickly the industry would grow. David mentioned earlier that, we were lucky enough to be a part of me and my business partner were lucky to be a part of the Forbes 30 under 30 class of 2017. And that was kind of, one of the things is that we honestly got a call from one of the Forbes people, and they said, we almost kind of bet on your business. There was a kind of division between the Forbes staff of like, is hemp going to kind of turn into this big thing? And it was, around 2017, 2018, when these farm bills were passed and these non-psychoactive cannabinoids like CBD products really kind of took off. And it turned, into almost $1 billion industry within a few years. And the people at Forbes were honestly kind of blown away and surprised by how quickly the industry grew.
Yeah, it's always amazing to me, Ari, as we finish up, that our own government sometimes works against itself because of the PACs and the self-interest, and making it illegal for hemp has always, to me, frustrated me about our government, because it's such an amazing plant, whether it's for cloth. I mean, talk about a gift from God, and yet we made it illegal here because of self-interest. And it's nice to know that we may take time to figure it out, but in America, it's still the best place to live, because we always have an open mind to figuring it out, even when we make it or do it the wrong way. It's just a matter of time until we figure it out. And that's, like I said, these entrepreneurs are going to save the world. We just got to give them time. Learn more about Evo Hemp and all of their products at evohemp.com. Great entrepreneur. You deserve every accolade that you receive, you and your partners. Ari Sherman, please come back on our show, but make sure you get on the Soul of Business, because you are the prime candidate to share your message about compassionate capitalism and the soul of business. Come join us again. Thank you, my friend.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ari. I'll have Raluca reach out to you, and we'll exchange email addresses here.
That would be great. Appreciate you guys.
Great job. All right, it comes that time. We're on office hours on Thankful Thursday, and I named it Thankful Thursday because I'm so thankful for the double B, Blaine Bartlett, BlaineBartlett.com. What's your takeaway for the day?
Takeaway for the day is exactly what we were just talking about with Ari. The purpose of business is to enhance the possibility of thriving on the planet. Every one of our guests is, they're doing that in some way, shape, or form. That's why these people show up on this show, because this is who they are. And when you and I started out with this particular show, Office Hours, the Soul of Business Edition. That's what we initially titled the Thursday show. We're 500 plus episodes now, and the guests that we've had here have all been organized around enhancing the possibility of thriving on the planet. Business does this well. Life changes in a very magical way. So that's my takeaway. I'm just thrilled to be a part of 500 plus episodes
and 3,500 plus guests, all of different nature. And for me, my takeaway is there's many ways to win. And the only way we can guarantee the win is to ask for help, and how important mentorship is in all four of the businesses. Being a mentor and mentoring at all times is a critical component to winning. So if you want to win, get a mentor, be a mentor. Have this in mind, the great logo of reaching up to people like Blaine Bartlett and reaching down to people like Dave Meltzer to help me. It works for me and it works for us. Win with this iconic position, this iconic logo. Ask for help and give help. It's that simple. Surround yourself with the right people, the right ideas. Let's all build here at Office Hours, a community of people that want to help each other and know people that can help each other. Let's all reach out. Blaine Bartlett, thank you for changing the world and giving us time to change the world as well. BlaineBartlett.com. I'll see you next Thankful Thursday. What do you say, brother?
You got it. I'll be there with bells on my toes.
And you tell your wife I will give her a call tonight. I got lots of things going on personally, so she's first on my list.
Hey, I'm going to be in town next week. Let's see if we can get
perfect. Catch me before I leave to London, Scotland. London, Israel, Scotland, London, and then New York. So catch me before I leave on the 1st.
You leave on the 1st? Oh, good. I'm going to be there before that. I'm there on the 30th, I think. So great.
Perfect. We got our date. We did it publicly here on Office Hours. Thank you, man. Take care.
You bet, buddy. Talk to you later.
When you're so active, sometimes you got to use your shows to communicate with your best friends. And so thank you for your patience and allowing me to use Office Hours just like a phone call to Blaine. That's awesome. We set a date at the end here on May 30th, the last day of May. If anybody needs any help, you know where to reach me. I will give you any exercises, guides, my portal, my search engine, especially my book. I'm happy to sign it, send it to you, pay for shipping and the book. All you got to do is email me, david@dmeltzer.com. If it's free, it's we. Email me, david@dmeltzer.com. Most importantly, everyone, this show's about being more interested than interesting. Be kind to your future self and do good deeds. We'll see you tomorrow at training, 6 a.m. Reach out, 6 a.m. Pacific time. Thank you.